our legislative session 15 today, and it'll be for June 1st. This is the work session for the council meeting on June 1st at 6 p.m. Mr. Boswick, would you please call the bills for final reading and vote?
Madam Chair, I think the first item on your agenda for the work session is number one. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
So if we could all turn to page 1 for item 1, and that would be 51-20. And I believe that we have David Coffey from the fire battalion chief with the fire department testifying today. I see you, David.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam President. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So we are presenting, or we've been awarded a supplemental grant through the Emergency Management Performance Grant Initiative. This is a FEMA award that was funded as a supplemental appropriation to the CARES Act. The county will be receiving $81,275 and will be required to match that with an in-kind contribution to emergency management. And what that means is we can use already budgeted funds for this. There is no match per se out of the county budget, and we will use the salary and fringe benefits from some of our emergency management staff to meet that need. We plan to purchase additional personal protective equipment for our first responders. We will also be purchasing some thermometers to do well checks on our first responders, as well as to be used for the transport of our EMS patients. And we are also using this funding to support an ongoing program of updating our fire stations with electronic locks. Security has become an increasing concern during the pandemic because PPE is coming at quite a premium. This was not originally part of the budget. It was a supplemental, and that is what we are presenting today.
Okay, so all things COVID.
All things COVID, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from any of the members for Battalion Chief? Okay, then. Thank you, David. Good seeing you. Stay safe. Wish everyone well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The second item for discussion today will be on page 20. And it's I'm sorry, these are for physical matters and contracts. Skipping down to.
Madam Chair.
And that will be David Likens, our wonderful director of the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability. Mr. Likens, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Madam Chair, members of the council, the administration is requesting approval of a contract with U.S. Department of Agriculture, their Wildlife Services Group, to provide management for our deer populations at some of our county parks, specifically at Oregon Ridge and Cromwell Valley, but this contract actually could be used at any county park. It's for 5 years, not to exceed $375,000. This is actually the third in a series of master contracts we've had with USDA. They are our sole source on this particular one. The deer, as you know, are proliferating everywhere and eating all of the plants in our parks. All the different layers of forest, they eat everything all the way up to the overstory. As a contractor, USDA, what they will do is they'll come out to the parks and do a survey to see how many deer there are in those parks. There's a carrying capacity that you can have in a park, which is basically, or anywhere, deer should be about 15 to 20 per square mile. We're way, way over that by hundreds of deer. So they come out and they do a survey in the fall to determine how many deer that we should have. They give us a recommended number that we could hunt, that they have a managed hunt. They have sharpshooters that are approved by Department of Natural Resources, and they would cull a certain number of deer. They usually come back when they can. It's usually not until January or February. They take out a certain number of deer for us. We're required by law to process those deer and donate the meat to a food bank. So we do the Maryland Food Bank is where we take them. So, and from a money standpoint, we're using forest conservation fee in lieu funds. So this is developers' money that we're using to actually do this work.
Thank you, Mr. Likens. I remember when this contract first came up, I was earning office about a year or two, and it broke my heart to vote on something like this, but I understood the necessity of it after seeing the proof of what an overpopulation of deer can do to a forest. I would like you to consider, and maybe you can tell me what the count is for the Marshy Point Nature Center, because they are connected and they run contiguous to the Gunpowder State Park, along with the Eastern Regional Center. They're all together. And I'm wondering if they've done a hunt recently at the state park. And if not, I would think that, they're congregating between the three very large properties. It's probably 1,000 acres almost between the three properties. When they're out coming in the roads in the neighborhoods, I think they're overpopulated. So have you looked at the numbers for that area specifically?
No,
since
not
they're not in the contract today.
Not specifically at Marshy Point. The only two that we've been so far county parks are Cromwell Valley and Oregon Ridge. We can, under this contract, we can certainly have them evaluate it and see where we are, where we stand.
Yeah, I think you should. And they have coyotes running around down there, and I don't know if they're helping thin out the herd or not, because I understand that they will kill a deer. And I know that we have packs of them in that area because we've been receiving notifications from folks about keeping small animals indoors. So if you could just check that Marshy Point out.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do any of the members have any questions or comments for Mr. Likens? You have to speak up because I can't see everybody. Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, thank you, Mr. Likens. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Our third piece of business today is also, it's a bat. It's on page 37. And we have Rosalind Johnson, our Director of the Department of Recreation and Parks. Ms. Johnson, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of council.
Good. How are you today?
Great, and yourselves?
Good. You're outside.
Yes.
I like it. You want to tell us about bat 20-07?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all and present today. The Department of Recreation and Parks is requesting a budgetary appropriation transfer totaling $840,000 to recreation services from the Department of Public Works. The funds are available in the Storm Emergencies Program due to the mild winter season, and the BAT is needed basically for recreation program leadership. We made some voluntary budget reductions last fiscal year of about $500,000, and we were unable to achieve all of those savings because the thought was to pass the cost on to recreation councils, and they could not absorb all of those costs. In addition, our BPL, or our grant-funded employees with COVID, we made a decision to support them also as well throughout COVID, and they had leave that they would be able to take, so that was an unbudgeted amount, and typically we would pass those costs on to the rec councils, and we did not do that this time because it was not a fair thing to do to pass those costs on to our recreation councils. And then volunteer background checks, a project that's very near and dear to our heart, I know, as well as councils and administration's heart. So the costs are for the volunteer background checks. The projected expense includes our initial volunteer background checks at about $31 a piece. The good news, though, is that those are one-time costs, and those volunteers will remain on file with CJIS, also on file with our department. So if any infractions of the law happen, we will be notified. And only new volunteers moving forward, once we do the initial set of checks, will have to go through CJIS in order to, and we would have to pay that cost. And then for operational equipment and miscellaneous other items for recreation services, that was unexpected for FY 2020.
Well, thank you. Do any of the members have any comments or questions for Ms. Johnson? Mr. Katz? Councilman
Yes,
Katz?
Hi, thank you. My question is, it's not a question. Will you please contact my office to set up the meeting regarding the Ag Center?
Yes, I sure will, Councilman. We had reached out to you a little while back, but yes, we absolutely will.
Please do,
Yes,
please
set it.
do, because it's important. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are correct.
Any other members? Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Stay safe out there, and thank you for the tremendous job that Rec and Parks is doing with feeding the students. And I'm guessing is that program going to stay the same through the summer months?
Thank you, Council Chair. Yes, we are planning that it will. We exceeded 2 million meals with all of our partners this past weekend. So we're, I think, at 2,080,000, over 2,080,000 meals at this point. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the schools are doing Monday through Friday. All of our partners, it's really been a heavy lift, but everyone has answered the call. So thank you for recognizing the work that the whole entire team throughout the county is doing. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
You
And
tell them
for your
thank you.
support.
Tell them thank you on behalf of the county council and
Absolutely will.
really the residents of Baltimore County for taking care of everyone for us. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. No other questions? Okay, we're going to move on then to number 4, which is on page 2. We're going to go back up to bills, and that is Bill 5220. And we have Peter Gutwald, our Director of the Department of Planning. Mr. Gutwald, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the council.
Good afternoon.
Bill 5220 removes public schools from the list of uses permitted as a right in the RC2 and the RC4 zones. It also does a number of different clarifications and cleanups. I would actually categorize this bill as a house cleaning type of a bill. As you can see through past legislation and previous legislation, there was a number of different things that have occurred over the years that dealt with public schools and daycare centers. So this bill, and as you know, county and state law is not applicable to the public school system, so they're allowed to do what they want to do on their properties as of right anyway, so that it's not necessary. So we're asking that you remove the public schools permitted right in the RC2 and the RC4 zones.
Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Are there any comments or questions from any of the members?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Catch.
Yeah. Pete, so what you're doing is taking out language that is not needed? Is that so? In other words,
Correct.
if the Board of Education owns land that's RC2 or RC4, they are not prohibited from building a school, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And Mr. Gutwald, that would remain the same for, like, I've just, well, we're going to talk about it today, have over 30 acres being dedicated to the county in hopes of a vocational school in Ebenezer Road. And once that is donated to the county, that would also be able to be developed for a school, correct?
If it's a public school, yes, correct. Yep.
That's correct. All right. Okay. Thank you. Just want to double check on that. I know we talked about it before. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Gutwald?
Yes, Madam Chair. I have a comment for Mr. Gutwald.
Councilman Batoka? Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Gutwald, I just wanted to give a shout out to Bill Skabinski of your staff. We started reviewing the planning board recommendations for comprehensive zoning, and we needed a document, some supporting documentation that we were trying to find, and he had it within a half an hour of our request in this COVID environment. So just want to let you know that your team is doing really well in providing service to the council.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Pass the word.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Gutwald?
Madam Chair?
Is that Councilman Catchigan?
Yes. Yes. Pete, what about a daycare center or a after-school program? Are they now prohibited from being constructed on RC2 or RC4 land?
It depends on whether it's privately or part of the public school system. If it's part of the public
So-
school system, it's good to go.
So, however, that doesn't apply to churches, let's say. If a church,
Correct.
they may, or
Private schools or colleges are still regulated. Yeah.
but they're not for, if it's in a house of worship building, it still can be done. In other words, a after-school care can be held there.
To my understanding, there are accessory and ancillary type of uses that if it's already a house of worship, yes, it can still be done.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Okay.
just to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly, Councilman Catch, if it was a house of worship that wanted to have daycare, is what you're speaking of, well, the state would come in, the state childcare licensing would come in. We have a Baltimore County childcare license regional manager would work with that facility to ensure that it met the childcare licensing requirements, and it would be licensed by the state.
But since it's not listed as a special exception or by right, it's not a problem that a private after-school program or a private school, let's say, that's part of a house of worship, it doesn't prohibit a school, a church-related school or a kindergarten or a after-school program.
Mr.
I
Catton?
know. Yeah.
If I may, and this is Tom Bostwick, I think I might be able to speak to that in the zoning sense. Section 424 of the zoning regulations generally covers family child care homes, group child care centers, and nursery schools. And I think to your point, section 424.2 states that group child care centers and nursery schools are permitted by right within the following uses, whether such use is permitted by right or by special exception, and in DR zones. And that list of other uses within which they can go are churches, community buildings, hospitals, school buildings, public and private or private, housing for the elderly, and office buildings generally. So that's where I think it covers the zoning aspect, which is another reason why this is a cleanup.
Good. Okay. I feel better.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Have a good day. Next, we're going to move down to page 13. Our friends from CCBC, Community College of Baltimore County. Melissa, are you with us today?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, we're going to talk about BAT 20-9.
Yes, thank you. So this is a two-part action. Back in November, the council accepted $1.7 million of state appropriations from the Owings Mills Center construction. And that eventually freed up some county PAYGO dollars. And what we're going to do is move that from capital to the operating budget for two sources. One would be $600,000 for the Baltimore County College Promise program. We were oversubscribed and we have a lot more students that are in that program, so this allows us to pay for that. And then the other $226,000 helps us out because turnover turned out to be not as high as we had expected.
Thank you. Any members have any comments or questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilman Jones.
I guess had a question, Ms. Hop. I know you said the College Promise program was over, I guess, enrolled. I'm just curious, the funds that you transfer, will that enable you to take care of all the kids who actually enrolled?
It will take care, yes, Councilman, it'll handle all of the students that enrolled this year. So,
Okay.
yes, it
Thank
will.
you very much, because that's very important to me.
Mhm. That was a good question, Councilman. Thanks for asking that question.
Sure.
Are there any other questions or comments from the members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Coca.
Ms. Hop, you said the money is coming from the Owings Mills facility?
From the construction of the Owings Mills facility.
So there aren't going to be any sacrifices to any of maintenance or anything for that facility?
No, Councilman. So this was actually an opportunity where the state had some unused appropriation, and we were able to show them that we had paid more when the building was built, and so we got a higher reimbursement than had been expected.
You're lucky that it didn't get deappropriated at the beginning of the cycle.
Well, I know,
Because,
we got right in there.
Yeah. Ed, you got to look for that deappropriation. I'm just
We were
kidding.
very happy to see the state kick in. It was great.
Any other questions or comments for the members, Ms. Hop? All right, Ms. Hop, have a great day. Tell Dr. Kurtenitis we all said hi.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Mhm. Next, we're going to move down to page 33, and it's our sixth item, and it's also another bat, and we have Whitney, is it Tantleaf from Baltimore County School System?
Yes, Madam Chair, Whit Cantler from BCPS. Good afternoon. In front of you, you'll find a budget appropriation transfer request for BCPS. BCPS budget consists of 13 separate appropriations by activities prescribed by the Maryland State Department of Education. Transfer of funds between activities require approval from the Board of Ed, which occurred on April 14th, and the County Council. Based on close monitoring of expenditures through the first 3 quarters of FY 2020, our current full-year expense projection shows an overall surplus, but with shortfalls in some activities and surpluses in others. Because BCPS carries no contingency budget, the only way to manage unanticipated expenses during the year is via amendments to the budget. We're projecting that overall we'll finish the year approximately $20 million under budget. Staff is closely evaluating the effects of COVID-19 school closings on the budget and have included some projected savings through the end of April in the BAT. Available funds of $1.7 million are coming from mid-level administration due to vacancy-related salary savings and reduced spending due to school closures. $7.2 million can be transferred from instructional salaries due to position vacancies. $500,000 is coming from student personnel services due to vacancies. $700,000 will be transferred from health services also due to vacancies. $1.5 million is coming from student transportation, which will reallocate savings from contract bus savings, diesel fuel, and field trips due to school closures. $500,000 is coming from operation of plant due to vacancy-related salary savings, and $6 million is availably transferred from fixed charges due to fringe benefits associated with vacancies. A transfer of $700,000 into administration will provide funds for a new high-capacity document imaging systems for human resources and finance. A requested transfer of $3.7 million into instructional textbooks and supplies will provide funds required for the purchase of critical FY 2021 textbooks. A transfer of $3.15 million into other instructional costs will provide funds required for principals' reallocation to support school budgets, school photocopies and printing, and out-of-county living arrangements of $700,000. Funds of $6.6 million are requested transferred to special education to provide funds required for non-public placement of $5 million and parent reimbursements of $1.6 million. Funds of $3.95 million are requested for transfer to maintenance of plant, provide funds required for building service workers coronavirus school cleaning related overtime during the shutdown, relocatable classrooms of about 1.4 million to prepare for the start of school year 2021, and bottled water. I'll now take any questions you may have.
Can we go back to two things? One was the most recent, where you talked about, and I forget the amount for overtime for cleaning during COVID. What was
Yes. During the shutdown, since the schools were technically completely shut down, we sent building service workers or our custodians into all the school buildings to sanitize and not sterilize, but to completely clean and sanitize the buildings, and that all required overtime since technically we were shut down.
So, in essence, let's just say normally their hours would be 7:30 to 3:30. So they were or were not cleaning during those hours and then had to have additional cleaners come in, or they worked on top of those hours?
They were cleaning during regular hours, but were paid time and a half for that because technically we were shut down. So they're, per their contract, we didn't have a maintenance, we didn't have an alternative agreement in place. It's just like having them work during a holiday. So, right when we shut down, that was the status that we were in.
Okay, I'm just thinking back to, I know we're paying our school bus drivers and they're not participating in any kind of assistance with the school system at this time. So maybe some of them could have been sent to the schools for some of that. And I do want to go back, David, I see your hand up. I'm going to ask one more question. If we could, that was a comment really. Can we go back to, because I don't have it in front of me, go back to the amount of money for relocation expenses, I think you said it was called living out of state expenses. It was around $100,000.
Let's see, I believe you were referring to, out of county living took about $700,000. So that's where we have Baltimore County students, but they're living out of the county. And so we have to pay tuition to other local area education authorities. So for instance, if they were in Howard County, but they still were tied to Baltimore County, we would pay that tuition. And likewise, most of the other counties in Maryland will pay us for the same.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. First, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. None of us likes to cut things, but we're going to get ready to adopt a budget in a couple days. And I look at this list, $700,000 for a high capacity document imaging system for human resources and fiscal services, $3.7 million for textbooks when students may not be going back until November, December. Particularly looking at that imaging system, is this something we really need to be investing in right now? I mean, is this absolutely a critical need for this next fiscal year? I know it's for the continuation. I know it's not the next fiscal year, but the money transfers over. So, I mean, is this really a critical expense?
It's actually for that upgrade is in progress. It's part of a much larger upgrade that occurred over the last couple years in the Advantage financial system. And due to audit findings and different requirements so that we could scan all of our documents, we also upgraded or took on the upgraded module to handle scanning and document retention.
Okay. We're spending $500,000 for bottled water.
It'll actually be a little less than that this year, but we have been for several years because of increased lead readings in certain pipes. So most schools have a water cooler in their building.
I understand that. Okay, get it. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any other members have questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
Yes, Mr. Tantliff, I appreciate you explaining all of these things, but let me just ask you a question. This is what I'm thinking, like off the top of my head. So I can understand the additional monies for the overtime expenditure to clean the buildings, even though it sort of sticks in my crawl a little bit that, we're doing the right thing by paying employees, even though we don't necessarily need them on a regular basis. We're paying them, but then at the same time, we get stuck by paying overtime when we ask them to do something. I get it. I don't like it. But what it seems to me, like I understand all the savings on one side because of the schools being closed, but then it seems to me as though the attempt is to spend the savings on other things.
Yes.
As
Yep.
opposed to maybe putting some back in the pot so that we may not have to maybe furlough an employee or may not have to cut a scheduled raise or I'm just curious. Am I seeing it wrong, Mr. Tantliff, or is there a better explanation that I'm not getting?
Well, Councilman Jones, it's an excellent point, but what I would say is everything in the BAT, with the exception of FY 2021 textbooks, was in progress or had to be spent to execute the superintendent and the Board of Ed's priorities. And we're just catching up to it as we do every year now. So there's nothing we're doing that was newly decided or that was increased once the COVID situation came on. These are all things that occurred earlier in the year or were in progress. Textbooks got added into the BAT because there's none in next year's budget. So with this year's savings, we were trying to fund less than half of what were really required, but to get some textbooks into the hands of the students.
Okay.
Can I make one more point?
Councilman Jones, I agree with you. I'm still stuck on, because the schools were closed, we paid the custodians half. The schools are closed, there's no trash to take out, there's no teaching going on, there's no students throwing up, no cafeterias to clean. I just don't get it. They had more time to just focus on sanitizing one room after another, closing the door, and not having to go back in till probably schools will be ready to open, and then maybe do a dusting or a vacuuming of the carpet. I don't know why the incentive would be to give a custodian overtime when the school is closed and they're not doing half the work that is normally. I'm not saying they're working all day, but it's a different kind of work. And again, we have a whole fleet of bus drivers and, getting paid and not contributing at all, not in delivering food, not into helping do anything in the schools. And I've had a real, that's stuck in my crawl. So.
Ms. Bevins, I would just, again, mention, I completely agree with your sentiments, but based on the union contracts and the state of closure that MSD imposed, we had to get the custodians in the schools, and the contracts required that were paid overtime. So the drivers wouldn't have helped that situation. It's not that they were literally working overtime, but they were paid regular time not to work. And so coming in required time and a half. I know that doesn't seem right or fair, but that is, until we got an MOU in place, that was how the contract was written, and there was no time to do anything but follow the contract as quickly as it came up.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Jones, then Councilman Marks.
That's a quick statement. Did anybody do a cost-benefit analysis to see whether or not it was cheaper to pay the custodians time and a half or to hire some outside company like ServPro or somebody else? Because once you're paying someone time and a half, I don't know, you can explain it to me whether you did it or not.
But they probably anyway, straight time, just like they're paying everyone else in the school system and not working. He probably would have been paid anyway. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, they would have been paid straight time to not come in.
Not paid.
Yeah, Councilman Jones, I don't believe any analysis like that was done, but because the governor closed schools on Friday and the custodians came in the very next week, I think it would have been difficult to arrange outside cleaning of that magnitude that quickly. I mean, we had the staff, they're excellent workers, and how the cost benefit, and it would have been just the incremental cost since they would have been paid their base pay. I don't know how that would have compared, but I don't think it would have been easy to have executed that quickly. And there's probably union violations where you're using outside vendors to replace the work they should be doing.
No, listen, I understand, and I don't want to say, I mean, listen, I appreciate the hard work that everyone is doing. I certainly don't have an issue with the custodians who work very hard each and every day, but sometimes I guess think that, you know, the citizens should get a good deal. You know, sometimes I guess think the citizens should be treated fairly. If you have a job in today's economy where you're being paid, even though we don't necessarily need you at this moment, and we bend over backwards to pay you, and then we say, oh, by the way, we need you to do this thing for us, and then you say, I'll do it, but I'll take time and a half for doing it, and my regular salary, it just seems like, I don't know. Listen, I get it. The hard-working custodian, they're going to take it because that's in the contract. Maybe I blame the people who signed the contract. I don't know. I just think at some point we should be treating the citizens fairly. You know, sometimes some things need to go towards the citizens who are paying the freight. That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Marks?
Yeah, I want to thank the chair and I want to thank Councilman Jones. I mean, I think when you talk to the teachers and when you talk to parents, you know, reading about more printing equipment that's costs $700,000, that's what tries people. I mean, I guess you're just the messenger. I'm sorry I'm unloading on you, but we can't just keep having this excuse. This is part of a multi-year thing. We have to keep spending and spending because it's already been done. This has got to change. These expenses in Greenwood have got to start going down. We've got to stop paying for rental where we don't need it. We've got to stop paying for out-of-state conferences where we don't need it. And we've got to start prioritizing better. I'm just venting because that's what every one of us is hearing on the council. Stop spending at Greenwood on things that are not mission critical right now.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. A couple questions. First of all, with the copying material, the 700,000, I assume that there'll be a backup that'll be stored in a place, you know, where the public's not going to know. Is that true?
Are you talking about the high-speed copying and
Correct.
document scanning? Yes, it's on the BCPS servers. No one from the outside would be able to access that data.
Well, no. Would the backup be stored somewhere else, though?
It would be backed up with the rest of our data.
So are
We have a
they?
service center in Towson that I believe we have a centralized point for all our backup servers. I don't know of it being in a different place, but I could follow up.
So are the financial disclosures going to be copied by this process?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Because remember that some of them were shredded when they shouldn't have been. So I'm just wondering.
I'd have to find that out.
Okay, and about the backup. That's very interesting. That's very crucial, the backup. I mean, someone could accidentally erase them off the Board of Education server. So, and secondly, a county student would be going to Howard County schools or Frederick County schools. Will you explain that?
Because their home school would be in Baltimore County, but due to, let's say, an illness of their parent, they need to stay with their grandparents in Howard County.
So
it's usually a temporary situation.
So how much money have we spent this year on this?
I don't know the total off the top of my head, but in excess of $1 million.
And so you're transferring 700,000. So there wasn't an adequate amount of money in the original budget then. I mean, if you spent $1 million, oh, okay.
It's a budget, honestly. It's not that the expenses have been increased, but we just have left that budget fairly flat, and it probably needed to be increased, but we weren't able to do that. But we are receiving revenue of a similar amount from other counties.
So bounce it. Okay, so example where parents are ill and they live with grandparents, or what other example would be?
Separate.
You could have parents separated and temporarily they're with the other spouse, but they're going to they'll ultimately come back to the county.
A parent and caretaker could be incarcerated for a period of time and go to a relative caretaker as opposed to coming in foster care, but that caretaker lives outside the jurisdiction.
It just, to hear that there were 300,000 budgeted and they need $1 million, anyhow, that to me just doesn't add up, but I'm sure it's accurate.
What is that per pupil? Do we know how many students total?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I think that would be good for us to know. I'd be interested in just knowing what that costs per student, if you don't mind. If you could get information, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments left? Alrighty, thank you for joining us today and stay safe. Next item of business is page 29. And it's a contract, and we have Gail Watts, our Director of the Department of Corrections. Are you with us, Ms. Watts?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract Johnson Controls to provide maintenance and minor repair services for 3 chiller systems at the Baltimore County Detention Center. The contract commences upon council approval, continues for 1 year, and will renew automatically for 4 additional 1-year periods, with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 120 days. The contract does not specify maximum compensation for the initial 1 year, but compensation may not exceed $374,188 for the entire 5-year and 4-month term, including renewal and extension periods.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for Ms. Watts?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Ms. Watts, can you put your video on? We hear you, but we don't see you.
It's on. Can you see me now?
It's okay. You got curlers in?
No, I'm in the office.
Madam Chair, I have curlers in. I hope you can tell.
Who wants to talk to Ms. Watts? Was that you, Councilman Patoka?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Watts, so it seems to me it's an unusual contract, 5 months and 4 years. And how did we come up with that?
It's the entire is 5 year and 4 months. I'm sorry.
But I mean, usually we do like a 1-year contract, a 2-year contract, a 3-year contract. It just seemed an odd sequence of years, 5 years and 4 months.
I'm not sure. They did the same thing back on October 2014. The council approved a 5-year and 4-month contract. The same.
60.
Not sure how to with that term.
I guess it would be a 64-month contract. 64-month contract. And the other question I have is, Johnson Controls gets a lot of these. Is there any other company out there that does this kind of work? Are there minority women business-owned companies that can do this kind of work? So that we can, certainly our institutional facilities are pretty secure in terms of our operation. At least I hope they are. And so it's good work if you can get one of these contracts. And so just wondering if there's other companies that do this kind of work, and are we able to locate those companies, and especially if they're minority owned or women business companies?
I will certainly look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Watts, you stay safe over there to corrections.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Next, we have on page 23, we have a BAT 20-10, and from the Sheriff's Department, we have Chief Deputy Ruby Hernandez. Are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Council.
Good afternoon.
We are requesting a BAT transfer in the amount of $75,000 for the Sheriff's Office. Due to the COVID-19, Essential Public Safety was awarded supplemental pay in the amount of $200 per pay period. That has a max set at $1,000 per employee, and we're asking this to finance that unbudgeted expense.
Okay. Any questions or comments from any of the members? Hearing none.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I did not unmute fast enough. I just wanted, I believe that Sheriff Hernandez, she is a resident of the 7th District. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, well, great, and thank you. And just for those who might not realize, she is the first female deputy sheriff in the history of the Baltimore County Sheriff's Department, which is, I believe, 350 or more years old. So I just wanted to recognize our good sheriff there for her good work. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations on that, Ruby.
Thank you so much.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, please stay safe and give Sheriff Fisher our best.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll go down to page 26, and we have another BAT 20-11, and we have Tammy Price from our 911 Center.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. The 911 Center is seeking approval for a general fund budget appropriation transfer of $310,000 from the Department of Public Works Highways Storm Emergencies Fund. These funds will be used to provide COVID-19 hazard essential pay for 911 Center employees in the amount of $116,000, and for higher than anticipated costs for overtime in the amount of $131,000, accident leave for $41,000, and foreign language line interpreter services for $22,000.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions or comments from any of the members for Tammy? Hey, Tammy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Next, we'll go up to page 5. We have a contract. We have Deborah Schindel. And, oh, Deb, you're going to do 2. Okay. You want to do the contract first or the BAT?
Let's do the contract first.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, for allowing me to join you on this beautiful day. We'll talk about the contract first. The administration is requesting approval of 2 contracts to provide an on-call asbestos abatement and reinstallation services. It was a competitive bid. The first awarder is Retro Environmental, which will serve as the primary contractor, and Joel Services will serve as the secondary. Each Contract will commence and continue for 1 year with renewable automatically for 4 additional 1-year periods. The contract for both contractors combined may not exceed $1,433,586 for the entire 5-year and 4-month term. Were there any questions?
Questions or comments from the members? Oh, you're off the hook today. Okay. Move on to the BAT is on page 10.
Thank you very much. The administration is also requesting approval for a general fund budget appropriate, which is VAT, totaling $800,000 from the reserve for a continuing program to the property management, building operation, and maintenance program for the costs associated with the unanticipated cleaning and sanitation supplies related to COVID-19, and which was $500,000, and then for the higher than anticipated Metro District water charges, which were $200,000. And those two will equal the 800 that we are requesting.
Any questions or comments from the members on the BAT? All righty, looks like you get to enjoy your beautiful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, next we're going to move down to page 16, which is also a BAT. And we have Tom Kiefer, our Deputy Director, Department of Public Works.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members.
Hey, John.
Yeah, so filling in here for Steve. The administration is requesting approval of a general fund budget appropriation transfer totaling $2.98 million for the Department of Public Works, coming from the Storm Emergencies Program and going to various other programs within the department, including the Bureau of Engineering and Construction, Highways and Equipment Maintenance, and Solid Waste Management. These are for COVID-related hazard pay, unanticipated costs for vehicle repairs and maintenance, and higher than anticipated overtime and contractual services for the landfill and recycling center. If you would like, I can go into more detail, or do you?
Well, let's see if we have any questions. Are there any questions from the members for Tom on the BAT? Anybody need any more information? Mr. Kiefer, it's your lucky day. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, next we're going to go up to page 1. We're going to go back up to bills, and on page 1, and we have Bill 50-20, and we have Mr. Ed Blades, our Director of the Office of Budget and Finance. You with us, Mr. Blades?
I am. If I can find the mute button.
We can hear you. We can't see you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of council. Under current county law, the annual tax sale must occur by the 3rd Thursday in June. This year's tax sale is currently scheduled for June 5th. Council Bill 50-20 changes the law to allow the scheduling to be between the 3rd Wednesday of April and the last Thursday of October. If approved by the council, the change in the law will be effective upon enactment, and the June 5th tax sale will be postponed until October to provide relief to the citizens of Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Blades. Are there any questions? Any comments? All righty, Mr. Blades, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman. Yes, Mr. Boswick.
Mine is just maybe a legal one for Mr. Blades. After the COVID-19, I guess, is concluded, which is a big if, or when will tax sales normally then be? Because that's a big window between April and October.
It'll return to the June. It'll return to the month of June after this year. Okay. So the intent is to keep it in the current month. We're just adding the flexibility.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else, Mr. Blades? All righty, thank you, Ed. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Next, we're going to go to page 4, and Mr. Boswick, if you would talk a little bit about Bill 53-20.
Yes, Madam Chair. This bill is similar to one that was passed by the council previously. Let me just get my bearings for just a moment. Bill 5320 amends certain by right at what is couched as alternative uses and development proposals in the DR zone when they are adjacent to the MD 43 overlay district, and subject also to certain conditions. Under the current law, a qualifying alternative use must be a DR2 or DR 3.5 zone tract and would need to be adjacent to MD 43, have direct vehicular access to Campbell Boulevard or MD 43, and be under common ownership or control or part of a common scheme of development as other property with a total area of at least 800 acres and having the MD 43 overlay district designation. That is what the current law is, and that was passed, I believe, by the council a few years ago. What this bill does is add a subsection permitting these alternative uses in the RC3 zone, on an RC3 zone tract, if that tract has kind of similar characteristics as what I just listed. It's adjacent to MD 43, under common ownership or control, or part of a common scheme of development as other property with a total area of at least 800 acres. And this would permit residential uses other than multifamily units are permitted on this qualifying RC3 zone tract in accordance with the standards for the DR2 and DR 3.5 zone tracts that are now already in existence. So there are also requirements for a pattern book and other things of that nature, and that is the sum and substance of that bill.
Thank you, Mr. Boswick. I'd like to touch a little bit on this bill. It has taken months, and it's actually been a wonderful experience watching the Essex Middle River Civic Council, the current landowners, developers, their attorneys, and the community all come together and work on this. I want to take a few seconds just to go over an email that was sent to me by Bob Bendler. Bob Bendler, as most of you know, is the president of the Essex Middle River Civic Council. It's an umbrella group which serves over 23 communities, which 20 of them are in my district, 3 are in District 7. And he says in this short email that he believes this bill is fully consistent with the spirit and the intent of the agreements reached between the property owner, the potential developers, and the Essex Middle River Civic Council regarding the site's impact in the Middle River area. The scope and quality of the development this bill would enable is believed to be in the best interest of the area, residents, and businesses. The Essex Middle River Civic Council endorses this bill and encourages its passage. Thank you, Bob Bendler. Through this bill, the community and the Essex Middle River Civic Council came up with so many things to benefit the community. First and foremost, there will be over 30 acres dedicated for a school on Ebenezer Road that Councilman Marks and I are very, very excited about. We're looking forward to have a professional trade school in the 6th district, which students can come from, surrounding districts, but we really think that it's going to serve the 5th and 6th district probably the most and take away the overcrowding at the Perry Hall Middle School, along with having over 30 acres dedicated for the community. 2 ball fields have also been donated, and a park will also be built on Bird River Road. So everybody really worked hard to get the best they could for the community, the quality of the housing as well, and it was really great. I was actually there at the final meeting, and to see it all come together was just a wonderful thing. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I hope that you will support this wholeheartedly, and we can just get her done and now that we have the land donated, David, hopefully we'll get the funding for some plans and some engineering and get this going. And I think it can be really the pride of the East Side, this trade school. And it'll be something, be a legacy that we leave behind, that we worked really hard for the district. So with that being said, are there any questions?
Kathy?
Yes, Councilman Marks.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your personal leadership on this issue. You are exactly right. This is the type of transaction negotiation that works when everyone comes together and it produces a good result. I think you hit it right on the head. The construction of a new high school will be a legacy that will long surpass our tenure on the Baltimore County Council. And it's baby steps. This is the beginning, but you need the land, and this legislation certainly helps with that goal. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I believe this is the first time that we've ever had such a donation made by developers. So I'd like to thank Ed St. I'd like to thank the McBride family. I'd like to thank Ed St. John's Properties, Somerset Construction, and am I forgetting anyone? And Mr. Strauss. So I'm just looking forward and know it's going to be a wonderful project. Any questions or comments? Okay, we will move on to 14, and I think we have some council business, and that will be, we will be appointing at the next council meeting, I'm guessing, the appointment of the acting director, Thomas Kiefer, for the Department of Public Works to take Steve Walsh's place. So I'm guessing, well, we won't have appointments. Maybe we can have some phone calls with Mr. Kiefer maybe throughout the week, or if anybody wants to do a conference, a couple members at a time, that may work as well. Are we up for that? Is that what everybody would like to do? Would they like to have any conversations with Mr. Kiefer before his appointment would be voted on at the next council meeting? We can set that up.
Madam Chair?
We can talk about it offline if you want. Yes, who's that?
Izzy?
Oh,
I just wanted to get Mr. Kiefer our priority resurfacing list before that date that we appoint him.
That's not the way that works, Izzy.
Chair, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think he's having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
He might not be able to hear your conversation. I think he's probably trying to get back on now.
Okay, well, we can just, for any members that would like to, please feel free to reach out to him. If you would like to have a conversation that doesn't include resurfacing projects, and you want to have a conversation with them, you know where to find them.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I see it looks like Tom Kiefer did get back on. I see him.
Okay.
Just one minor thing. Like I know, like for example, obviously with Memorial Day holiday yesterday, a lot of the people that were supposed to get the recycling picked up yesterday are not getting it picked up today. And so we always get people that are calling in, and then, because there's now 2 or 3 weeks of recycling building up at people's homes. So I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about it, but it's always an issue. And I can almost always expect that when recycling doesn't get picked up because of a holiday, and then it doesn't get picked up the following day, we're going to get calls from constituents. So I don't know if there's something we can do about that, but I just wanted to pass it on.
Tom, did you hear Councilmember Quirk's concern about the recycling schedule being off when the Monday for holidays?
I got my connection back, or everybody froze, and then and it looks like it's still trying to do that, but I caught the tail end of it. And so trash that was not picked up on Monday was picked up on Tuesday. If your question is then why is it that recycling is not also picked up? No. Okay, try again, Councilman Quirk.
So when it skips one day, if recycling falls on a holiday and they don't pick it up, it's not like they come the next day for regular trash pickup.
Right.
And then people say then they don't get a recycle pickup till the following week. And I know that it blows all over the neighborhood and makes things worse. So do you have a comment about that or any, if you see that changing in the near future?
Certainly look at it and talk internally. Like I say, when the trash, and it may be a resourcing issue because the trash does get postponed today and they do double up on that, and it may just make too much of a load on the Tuesday following a Monday holiday. But I'll check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. That, I appreciate it because what happens is, of course, these holidays, like if it falls on a recycling day, well, holidays, a lot of people will maybe have excess beverage containers and everything else. And so their recycling is like so full that what happens truly is a lot of people just take their recycling and then they just throw it in the trash instead of recycling it because they don't want to wait for 2 more weeks. And so it's something that I've for 10 years now, it's been an issue. So I don't know if there's a way that resource-wise we can bring somebody after the holiday, but the holidays are really where we get a lot of recycling, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. A lot of aluminum, I'm sure.
Mr. Cork, Councilman Cork, can I just comment on you got a haircut and it looks great?
I got a legal haircut. I did go to the haircut purely legally this weekend, and boy, I'll tell you, I'm happy that we can do that again. Yep.
Yeah, a little bit of normalcy in our lives. So, Tom, I think you may have been away. We were just saying that we look forward to talking with you before your appointment. And are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
And so, since we can't meet personally, you may get a few calls from some of the members that may just have some questions or just want to hear about, your vision in public works. And so that may happen before our next council meeting, okay?
Great. I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you so much. And we'll be talking with you the next council meeting. Okay, folks, I think that's it. Mr. Boswick, am I missing anything? Are we finished? I'm pretty sure we're done.
Yep, that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair. You're done.
You're welcome. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and stay safe. See you all next time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You as
Madam
well.
Peace out.
Thank you, Council.